Okay, I thought I'd give everybody an update on what's been going on with the music, the new album, and everything. Um, so basically, what's been going on is last summer, fall, I started working in earnest on wrapping up the wrapping up the album. Um, can't remember where I was at when I did my last vlog or whatever, but now we've got 8 tracks. It's going to be 8 tracks. I've got another song at least that I want on the album, but it's not going to be on the album because this is turning out to be so much work and taking so much time that I definitely need to just take what I've got and get it done, and the other stuff will have to be on the next album. But yeah, flashbacks to Resonance One. That's how that went too. And actually, some of the songs I was sure I was going to put on another album. I don't know if I ever did make it on another album, but I hope that isn't that one. This one's a good one. But anyway, so uh, and mainly so this, I wrapped up the last song, uh, and about the time right before I did that, I got basically the final version of all the equipment I have wanted to do this album right, and namely that is, let's see here. Okay, so this stuff I've had for a while. First tube acquisition was this Black Star amp. Got this back in, I don't know, 2018 or something. Um, and it's such phenomenal purchase. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and really paid attention to the sound that people got with the various amps on YouTube. And that one, I just loved the super distorted, glassy, ultra compressed tube distortion sound that thing could get. Um, and the minute I heard it, I knew I had to. And these guys were like comparing that to some other Black Star amps, and really noted that that was one thing this did well. And so basically, it's like a ultimate lead guitar tone in a box. You just like turn it on and go. Uh, and it doesn't have too many settings or anything, and not too much ability to vary the sound. But what it does have is basically one family of fantastic distorted guitar sounds, tube distortion, and it also happens to have a direct out that supposedly comes from the power tube and a scouted emulation, and that's what I used back on Victory Sun. Uh, if you listen to, I think it was A Drive, yeah, and 100 Degrees in the Shade. Those were done with this amp recording the speaker. And back then, I was totally into the sound with the speaker, and uh, you know, my pet peeve is these tube modelers have way too much high end, and so speakers are just beautiful for that. But then they didn't have enough, it was like too muffled sounding, and so for Victory Sun, I decided to try its direct out. And besides, it was such a pain in the butt to get a decent recording. You have to crank the amps way up, and then you have headphones on. You have to reference click is like super loud, and you're trying to play along with it. It's just a nightmare. It wasn't aesthetically pleasing at all. It wasn't conducive to getting in the mood, getting the vibe going at all. So it's much better to do direct. Direct's a dream. I can have the stuff, the backroom tracks play in 7.1 surround. I can put the guitar track that I'm trying to monitor, that I'm recording, anywhere in any of the speakers. So depending on where I'm standing, I'll like pan it around to the right speaker, just to get adequate separation, and then to get that fine tuning, where you can hear the right amount of the guitar, the right amount of the kick drum, or whatever. You just move around the room a little bit while you're playing. But anyways, so that was the sound I got on Victory Sun, and when I listened to it, when I first recorded it, I think, oh, it's got too much high end. Once you get into the album, once you play it back with everything else, it is perfect. This is exactly what it needs. So that got me inspired. That got me inspired to be able to do direct sound with all my amps, because my next acquisition was this Fender. It was the following fall, I think, fall of 2018. Hot Rod Deluxe. I wanted the whole family of Fender sounds, but I wanted something that could get as much distortion as I wanted, so I could get everything in between, which this is phenomenal at. And when I recorded Fresh New Rain, I used this one. Um, and but I couldn't do direct sound with it because it doesn't have. When you read the manual for the Fender amps, they're like, if you want direct out, just take the preamp out jack and run that into your mixing console. I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you. But anyway, so that was, I knew I had to get something to record direct properly. Okay, now finally, the last acquisition, which happened last summer, last spring. I'm pointing this the wrong way. Everything's mirror image in here, so it messes me up. Okay, was the bottom thing is a Marshall Forward Health Cal I got a while back, which is great to go with anything. But the amp, the DSL 40 CR. I went to Guitar Center and tried some bunch of amps and stuff for a long time, guitars for a while, and boy, that one really stuck out as being able to achieve the whole range of Marshall tones. Like it's got everything in a box, and you just find the one you want, and it can get everything from almost no high end to enough high end to rip your head off, and everything in between, whether direct or whether through the speaker. And I mean like direct. And the reason I know that is because I also got, where is it? This, the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor, and that was it. That's what I needed, because then I could take the speaker outputs of all these amps, run it into a properly functioning load box that's made for speaker outputs. So basically you have the guitar speaker going in one end, out the other end has a balanced signal that runs to your audio interface. And you can have it cabinet emulated or not. I run it without it. They've got the whole suite of cabinet model and speaker models in their own software for 2 Notes. I felt like those had too much high end. It was kind of unrealistic. It was kind of weird. But it turns out it was the Marshall with its insane amount of high end. I just was still getting a handle on that. But regardless, once you have that direct speaker sound, you can use anything that uses impulse responses of speaker cabinets. I'd already bought a bunch of them for Celestia Vintage 30, and of course Logic has a bunch of ones built in. Reason has a couple built in, and you can buy or just get for free tons of them online. Record your own, whatever. So that really did it. Once I had that thing, then I could get the tube amp sound I wanted, and then I could just print that, and then I could, to my heart's content, go through and try out the right speaker model / cabinet model impulse response that worked for the song, for that particular track. And that, I mean, dude, that was it. Once I had that, all the pieces were in place. Unfortunately, almost all the songs had at least what I had considered their final recording, what turned out to be their preliminary recording, because I went back and started re-recording everything that hadn't been done with a tube amp, because there were some tracks that had modelers still on them, 100 Degrees in the Shade, and that was the first one I redid. And I don't know, the main thing that sticks in my mind is what I've just been working on, which is Sunday Glory. Of course, Sunday Glory I recorded with that Yamaha THR5. It's great for a modeler and everything, but once you start hearing these tube amps, it's like you start to hear that, edgy, fizzly, just noise crap that's in those, I don't care how good it is, every modeler signal, and it bothers you, so then once I hear that, I have to go back and redo all those, and so then I had the equipment to do it by the end of last summer. So I went back and started re-recording things, and was, off and on plugging away at that on various songs and trying different things and basically learning how to use this equipment, learning what these amps can really do, and how to get various sounds and all this stuff. And so by the time I recorded "Crack the Whip," which is the last song I had done for the album, I had everything in place. And boy, that thing, oh, those Marshall sounds are some of those rhythm sounds of the wah through the Marshall is just, it's like exactly the tones I'm going for. You know, it's like the sounds that run like Def Leppard albums and all this other stuff is like to get those guitar sounds. And now I can. I finally can. I finally got the equipment to do it. And in a way, it's kind of all thanks to Joe Satriani because he pointed out he had like the Marshall version of this thing, uh, this torpedo captor. Marshall made one way back um, that had basically it could handle a bunch of impedances and speaker outputs, and then a couple of different cabinet emulations. And I don't think those are impulse responses back then. They were just some low pass filters and whatever. But that's what Satch, I think, to this day uses on all his albums, and I can see why. Once if you can get anything close to a decent sound with that, it's going to end up being light years beyond what you could do with a microphone and stuff. And way more flexibility, and monitoring is so much better, is so much faster, so much more user friendly, so much more musical in practice when you're playing during the recording process. So anyway, that was last fall, and into then Christmas hit and everything, and then I signed up somewhere along the line. This came to my attention, and I think Facebook like funneled this at me, that there was a songwriting class taught by Ryan Tedder from One Republic, and I just latched onto that, and that thing went basically the whole month of January, and for that I'd put everything on hold because you're recording songs for that. I recorded 3 songs with vocals for that, and immediately after that was done, I'll try to link to the songs with vocals. I think they're on the same channel here as this one, but anyway, but right immediately after I was done with that, I recorded one brand new song with instrumental, just kind of applying those vocal techniques, and that's I can tell that's the direction things are going to go for Resonance 3 or whatever it's going to be called. But anyway, at that point I'm like, okay, this Resonance 2 thing's been on the back burner. It's way overdue. I need to get this stuff done. Like, done. So I've been plugging away at that. And then I kind of like, I hit that hard for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, I need a break. I've been doing basically for 2 months straight, been doing nothing but music nonstop. So I took some time off, took an extended spring break for myself, basically, played a bunch of video games. But anyway, so then it's like last few days I finally got back at it, and I'm picking up right where I left off, and it's going well. I basically I've been going through the songs right where I left off, each one of them at the last time I was working on them, and starting in track order. Starting with A Drive and then Victory Song and down the line. Making them, I'm going through these plateau phases. So it's like, and the recording industry is set up this way because they have different people working on different things, but also it's a way to get projects done. Basically, once you're done recording, that's it. You're done recording. You got a good take for everything you're done recording and editing, and then you're ready to mix. And then once you're done mixing, you print those to like a master. And for me, the master is the 7.1 master. We're not even going to talk about how we approach 2-track mixes and stuff because I found that such a morass, man. What I really want to do is go back and do a separate complete mix for 2-track, and maybe even all the other formats. But it's like it just gets me. This is so much work. It's so involved. What's very likely going to happen is I'm going to nail a 7.1 mix for everything, and from that will be derived down, just straight up down mix as a 5.1 quad, and then a 2-track mix will probably only exist in the form of binaural for headphones and binaural for loudspeakers, because hearing the difference between things squeezed into a stereo mix and then going back and listening to even a binaural encoded stereo mix is just night and day. The binaural encoded ones have way more space. There's way more room for all the parts and everything. You try to squeeze those into stereo, it just doesn't work. And then I'm like, if this is possible to do via stereo playback, via binaural encoded for loudspeakers. Why am I trying to do a conventional stereo mix? I keep thinking, oh, there's people that'll just expect a standard stereo mix. I'm thinking, you think, oh, this won't work for when you crank it, and you want, but like think I said in the last video, this stuff works great. It seems to work even better the louder you play it back on a stereo system. So yeah, I believe the way this is going to go is the stereo mixes are going to be binaural mixes, and there'll be two. There'll be a headphone version and a loudspeakers version, and that's going to be it. So anyway, to get those songs to the next level, of the production chain, what needs to be done is I need stems. I need 7.1 stems that are the finished version. Please let them be the finished version of every track. Hopefully, the finished version of every track. And I'm really trying to A/B those on my two surround systems, and really get them to where I'm happy with them, and I am 99% sure I'm not going to be going back and having to redo something. So I've gotten that far in the last few days, last week or so. I've gotten that far with track 1, A Drive, track 2, Victory Sun, track 3, 100 Degrees in the Shade, and track 4 is what I'm at the tail end of right now. I've been slaving away at is, of course, Sunday Glory. So, yeah, Sunday Glory, just got done recording the bass part. I have been working a lot with the tempo. At first I realized it needed to be faster, and it was at 158, so I tried it at 168, and it's got a lot more energy. It was great. Unfortunately, even with my best technologies, I've got Reason has good flex timing, where any modern software you can flex the tempo and the pitch independently of audio, and it sounds good. Usually you can hear it's been done. Reason, it sounds so good you can't even tell it was doing it. Except I found, I think I'm more sensitive listening to guitars at that, and there's just, it's not really made to work with distorted guitar sounds anyway necessarily. So if I run a clean guitar sound into it and it's all modeled, then I can flex time and pitch around no problem. Unfortunately, once I record even that direct sound from the DI, there's some warbling and stuff. It sounds like a warbly tape effect, just a little bit. Average person probably couldn't tell it was there, but I can tell. And then going back, slowing the tempo back down to hear this stuff at original tempo, the guitars sound so much better, and they're so good. I just don't want to touch them, and I definitely don't want to turn this into another month-long guitar recording session again. So it's not. No, I've got good takes of all of them with the Marshall. They're re-recorded, 4 tracks instead of 2 on the rhythm guitars. So it looks like it's going to be at 158 beats per minute. And it's okay, it's great, it's just a different type of feel. It just doesn't have an insane amount of energy, and that's fine. It is what it is, it's going to be great. So I really was working on the bass track. I ended up with a bass track that's pretty close to what I originally laid down in the video in 2013 or whatever, but it didn't really, it was just kind of a first run through. I was doing things really sloppy back then. And I wanted it, I'm really working on trying to get the best feel I can, the best energetic feel. I've tried tons of different drum tracks and stuff, and none of it really had the right kind of drive. It seemed to sap the energy out of the riff. So finally, I think I've got a drum track and a bass track. Spent a lot of time working on the bass track, coming up with it, learning it, playing it. I found like an actual bass was the way I could do it the best. So I recorded all of that, and then the timing wasn't tight enough, and instead of like spending years trying to practice that up and everything, I just got into editing mode and started editing that up and spent a lot of time. And I think I've got it where I want it. It's like 85% quantized to the groove. I went through, made sure all the spices are right on every note, and it's pretty good. I might tweak that a little bit. I think it might be just involved, a matter of shifting it ahead or behind a little bit. But anyway, so I didn't quantize the durations because they're pretty close, a bunch of offbeat stuff, and I don't know. It was like, I thought it was perfect. Playing it felt good, but then when you went back and listened to the rhythm guitars, and how it started to pull back the energy of the rhythm guitars. I really felt like I couldn't go just a straight take. Even though the time was pretty good, I really needed to get it right on. So I'm still working on that. I basically got it to where I could today, and I'll go back and listen to it fresh ears tomorrow night. I think so. I'll have time to work on this. Hopefully, got a lot of work coming up, but we'll see. Um, so that's where that's at. That's halfway through the album, and I don't think the last songs are going to be as much because I don't think any of them have more guitar recording that needs to be done. Fresh New Rain might have one guitar part. I thought I re-recorded it, but then it didn't have the right sound as good as the modeler. It's just that chiming, that thing. So I don't know. I'll go back and see it. There might be a little bit that needs to be recorded there, but I don't think so. I think I went back and redid all that last fall. So yeah, I think those songs will go fairly quickly, and we'll be able to get them to that stage where I have 7.1 stems of all of them, and then we get to work on mastering. I know some of them are going to need to be EQ'd once I compare them to reference tracks, and I've even been mixing them accordingly, like mixing, if the guitars are dull, mixing the whole track a little dull, keeping in mind I'm going to be boosting it with EQ later. We'll see how that goes and everything. And that's something you can't really know until you've got all the tracks together, you hear how they sound together, and then you start comparing them. I am comparing some to reference tracks now, but really that's at the mastering stage. That's where you start comparing to reference tracks and make sure you're in the same ballpark with the type of music that I'm trying to emulate, the type of sounds and timbres I'm trying to emulate. And it's kind of a wide smorgasbord on my part. It's like pop music is a big one. A lot of stuff with the heavy beats, and some dance. I believe listening to some Armin van Buuren as reference tracks, and then of course the metal and hard rock and stuff from yesteryear that I'm into. So picking all my favorite parts from all that, and man, with the next album, it's going to be all that plus easy listening. Because yeah, let's talk about that for a few minutes. So Resonance 3. Basically, when I got done with the songwriting class, I had, I've now got, thanks to that class, is just what I needed. And I've been struggling for years on musical form. And that, just hearing Ryan Tedder talk about different songs that he's working on and what the parts are called and what they do, it's like, it clicked. I got it. So now I know exactly what a verse is, a pre-chorus, a chorus, middle eight / bridge. I know what all those are. I know what they do. I know where you put them in your cookie cutter pop song format, and that's great. That's why I need it. That's why sonata form is the pop song format. Okay, the verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, middle eight, chorus. That type of thing. Variations on that. That's like the starting point. And once I've got that, I'm going to be able to fairly quickly, I think, and I found even in practice, I could just lay something down, because what I come up with naturally is riffs. I come up with sections. Okay, I come up with a verse, pre-chorus, and chorus usually. I just didn't know what to do with them, and now I do. It's like now I've got the normal structure for what you do with them, and I can start with that and then see where things need to be changed and make variations on it artistically as needed. But once I did that, I was able to just start approaching the music, and I started thinking, working with vocals was a good thing for me because it started to show me the power and clarity, just musically, of vocals versus the guitar. Nothing just in guitar records, but there's, for guitar players, sure, we can all hear the guitar parts clearly and everything, but I could definitely tell after working on that your average Joe, and even myself, the clarity and power and expression you can get from the human voice is way beyond what I could get with guitar, and it's way beyond what I'd done with instrumentals when I just had electronic tracks with synths and stuff. But some parts synth stuff I'd done had been close, so I started to realize, okay, if, at times when I don't use vocals, if it's going to be an all-instrumental album, which I do really want to do, by the way, it has to have that kind of musicality. I have to approach that. So I even worked with, on this last piece I worked with recording a vocal melody sung. I would sing it with all the inflection and dynamics and everything I wanted, and then convert that to MIDI and unfortunately, the software I got Logic 9 and Reason and stuff, and they don't have the best ability to convert all the parameters into like volume control envelopes and control messages for timbre or whatever. Apparently, I was reading up on Cubase. Cubase does. Pro Tools, I'm not sure. So basically, I really wanted to try out Cubase and try out its audio to MIDI because I think this is really going to go somewhere. That's an option. There's some people that offer like a mic and a box that are supposed to do all this stuff. I was thinking about playing. There's actually a company here in Ames that makes one of those, which is cool. So I might try something like that down the road. And also another thing I thought of is I stumbled across is wind controllers, and like Roland has a good wind controller. Being able to get, because I'm looking at is being able to gain all these dynamic expressions in the middle of notes. You can't do that with just velocities with MIDI and stuff. And I want to get musicality expression, so I may play around with a wind controller like that and stuff. So those are ideas for how to get good melody lines. My goal is to get melody lines that are as expressive as I possibly can get them, mimicking the human voice with electronic instruments. And then, of course, to use acoustic instruments when I can. I've been getting back into trumpet for over a year now, trying to get my chops back up, my ability back up on there. Violin, it's going to be a while then. Trying to get there on violin. Since my son's taking violin, I started playing that, and he's taking saxophone, and I started playing that, trying to get there on that. And I really would like to get an oboe and or a bassoon and get one of those. And I mean, look, at the end, I could see if I had the money, or just gradually, over the years, accumulating the whole orchestra of musical instruments and learning how to play them. That would be the best. I don't need to be able to play them like the best professional. I just need to be able to play expressive, simple melodies with them. And if I had that, I could really go to town. So what I've done so far has been really helping my musical expression. And I can tell that's really going to be the way of the future. And I can also tell that the next album is really going to be a little bit different because once I started working with these expressive sounds with other instruments and electronic stuff, it really started to bring me back to my first love in music, which was easy listening back when I was a kid. And I know a lot of people are groaning and stuff, and no, I don't plan on covering pop songs, God forbid. Easy listening is just, what destroys it is when you know the melody from somewhere else. Then it's just, the uncanny valley thing sets in and it's not enjoyable. And I loved them as a kid because I didn't know any of those songs. It was all, to me, they're all originals and it sounded awesome. So that's really what I want to do is write original, new age / easy listening with guitars, with drums, metal rock guitars with drums. It works. The stuff I put together is starting to work. I can see how it works. I can see how those complement each other, and I think it's really going to be a unique instrumental style. And I'm trying to learn things from the genres I love, like dance, electronic. I've been watching videos, taking master classes and stuff with people on that, and of course, trying to learn from the other genres. This Ryan Tedder class was a great experience learning from the pop aspect, and I spent years and years trying to learn the various takes on recording good metal and stuff, and so all that's kind of coming together in Nascent Universe, and I think it's going to be my own signature style. Kind of along the lines of what I've done before, but less guitar oriented. I mean, using the guitars, sure, we'll still have rhythm guitars playing melodies, but they won't be the main melody in the song all the time. I've figured out that I need to do a Mannheim Steamroller Christmas album type thing where every time you have a new section or a repeat of a section or even the second half of a section, he changes up the instrumentation and stuff and the backgrounds and I'm learning how my favorite instrumental artists, their craft, what they do to make things interesting, and it's starting to gel. And I think over the next 10 years, I'm going to maybe just, the next album or two, I'm going to, hopefully that won't take 10 years. I'm going to really get a certain level of competence with that craft, the crafting this genre of music that's an amalgamation of those genres. So I'm really excited about it. I was so excited about it. That's what got me motivated to work on Resonance 2 because I want to get it done. I need to get it out of my way and out from underneath me so I can work on this other stuff because there's some really exciting things on the horizon. So yeah, that's why I'm back in the world of music. And even though it's the summer and my construction slash sweeper job is going to really take off in the summer, I'm going to try to work out my schedule so I've got a good 4 hour time block every day or almost every day to keep working on music so I can just keep going. And yeah, so hopefully in another month or two, I will have Resonance 2 done, released in all formats, and I'll start disseminating that on all the digital platforms I'm going to disseminate it on, and then start working on the next chapter. So yeah, that's what's going on in the world of Nason's music, and hope everybody's doing well, and I wish you all well in whatever endeavors you're involved in, and we'll see you next time.